Well, I never did like him. He was good friends with my brother and over my house a lot, and I thought he was kind of a snot. So I didn't really like him. And the first time he asked me out, I stood him up. So he come over to the cafe where I was working, and Itch let me leave. I went to what was that restaurant on Ogden? Rigo's. At that time, it was a really expensive restaurant. I thought, well, I'm not going to go out with him again, so I'm going to have the biggest steak they have on the menu. And I did. I ate every bit of it. Add dessert. I thought, I'm not going with him again, so it's okay. I don't care. And you?
It was a mighty expensive date. Well, the reason probably that she didn't like me was her cousins and I used to run around together, and so I had one of them beat the crap out of her brother.
My mother was not happy.
And so her mother started calling me the town bum. And so I'm sure she was shocked when the town bum come to knock on the door and ask her if her daughter was ready to go. And I went over, and Itch said, well, that's kind of ridiculous. She stood you up like that. So he told her to go home and change clothes, and she did. We went to Rigo's, and it was a kind of a high-class pizza place there in Ogden. It was on about 27th Street on Main Street.
Washington.
Or on Washington, and you walk in and you could go over and order what steak you wanted. And she picked out the biggest one.
Well,
you know,
I wasn't going to go with you again. I was going to make best of it.
We had a good time though.
Oh, we hadn't kissed him for a long time. I mean, we went out several times.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up kissing him. Isn't that the way it goes?
Well, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I ended up kissing him because I thought, I've been kind of not very nice to him, and he's been really generous with me because he gave me a Christmas present. I didn't give him nothing.
Oh yeah, that Christmas present was a good one. And then Christmas Eve, I says, what are you doing? She says, oh, I'm nothing. And I says, well, let's ride down to Ogden and look at the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And would you believe we drove down, and they're in the city center where they have that display and everything. They turned the lights off on Christmas Eve after we drove all the way down there.
Yeah, and it was my idea.
I asked her out. She worked down here at Itch's Cafe, and I'd stop every night when I come home from work and go in and have a cup of coffee or a cold drink or something and shoot the breeze with her a little bit. And finally I asked her out, and she said yes. And I thought, well, at least I'm making some headway here. And I go to get her, and she stood me up and gone to work.
Well, I really didn't want to go out with him anyway, and I thought, he was just kidding. I'm going to work. I can make more money at work than going with him, so I went to work.
And then the third time I went to pick her up, her girlfriends were there, and they says, oh, are you going dating in a
Falcon?
In a Falcon?
That was a car.
She drove a Falcon, and so did I. And that was, that was kind of a joke, I guess, that you're not supposed to be driving a Falcon when you're dating.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then it went from there, and we progressed along. Finally, I didn't do the proper thing. I didn't ask her dad for her hand. I just gave her the ring one night.
And I was totally shocked. That was the last thing that I expected, because he was leaving to go to basic training, and I thought, and we talked about it a little bit, but nothing real serious. But when he pulled that ring out and asked me, I said, well, let me see the ring first. So I had to look at the ring before I said yes. Like I said, I was totally shocked. So when I got home that night, I just put the ring box on the table because I didn't know how to tell my mother and dad, because my mother still thought he was the town bum at the time. So I thought, I'll just let her figure it out for herself. And she came in and she says, what the hell is this box? And my dad, he says, I can't believe you want to marry somebody that's been married before. Why would you want to do that? And this is what I said to him. Well, because I love him and he doesn't drink. And my dad never said another word to me about him. But in the end, when my dad was really sick and that, Kurt was very, very good to him. Better than I was. Well, that was a fiasco because we got married by the judge of Brigham City. That was because it was my grandpa's good friend.
He was a circuit judge.
Yeah. And he was late, and he had on his golfing shoes, and he tried to marry me to my dad.
Her dad walked her down the hall, and he was trying to marry her to her dad. I'm standing there thinking, that isn't the way it goes.
Yeah. And then we got the wedding over, and back then they didn't have a dinner after the wedding or that. There was just a couple hours, and they took some pictures, and then we had the reception, and I was at Kurt's mother's house out there on her patio. And I mean, if you both live in Corinne, everybody comes. I mean, we had a big reception. And a lot of Kurt's friends that I hadn't met before. And the one friend that you was in the guard with, that was in Ogden, what was his name?
The little Japanese guy,
Yeah.
Jim Ito.
Yeah, he come, which was a total surprise because we didn't even send him an invitation.
We had talked while we were in the service about it, you know. I had her picture in my footlocker, and every time the footlocker was open, I'm looking at Graham, so, and I'm telling him we're getting married. I came home on the 3rd of July, and we got married on the 14th.
Yeah, and we had a little house over on the other side of town and didn't have air conditioning, so that was hot summer, more ways than one. I was taking birth control at the time, and I didn't feel good. I thought, I'm not pregnant, because I'm on birth control. So I went to the doctor. Well, guess what? I was pregnant. And I knew Kurt wanted a boy. I mean, you know, carry on the name and all this and that. So I had a really easy pregnancy. And Kurt was there for me until he went to
summer. Easy for you.
Yeah. Kurt went to summer camp, wasn't there when I had him, because he was in Fort Douglas. Was it Fort Douglas?
No, we were at Dugway Proving Ground.
So my mother and dad took me in the hospital, and I had him before he got there, but he made it in time and stayed for a couple hours.
Have him before I got there.
Almost.
You woke up. Well, yeah. I get a call. We'd been out. I was in a searchlight battalion at that time. We had just gone from a gun battery to a searchlight battalion, so we'd worked almost all night. 2:30 in the morning we go into the barracks, and I just barely crawled into bed, and the BQ come and got me at 3 o'clock and said, your wife's in the hospital, gonna have a baby. So I borrowed a car, and I drove from Camp Williams. I'd drive a while, and then I'd pull over and get out and walk around the car to stay awake, and then I'd drive some more. I got up here and walked into Cooley Hospital and into the room she was, and she was laying there sound asleep.
Not for very long.
And I'm thinking, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I put my head down there, and I was holding her hand, and she woke up and squeezed my hand, and of course that woke me up. And then it was right shortly after that Russ made his appearance.
Yeah, I had a really easy delivery, like 20 minutes after I got into the delivery room. So it was not like what you went through the first time, Pam, but it was easy, and he was an easy baby. He was just a sweet baby. I mean, he just would go to anybody, he'd entertain himself. He just, and he'd eat anything you gave him. He didn't care. He was a good eater, and he didn't like a lot of candy. And I don't know that so much now, but he drank a lot of Coke. Me and him drank a lot of Coke.
When he was just a baby, right after he was born, of course, Helen had to go back to work. We had bills and everything, and so she'd work nights, and I'd tend the baby. And
the baby was Rusty.
Well, yeah, I'd tend Russ, and I swear I thought he was going to be bull-legged all his life, because back then you had the cloth diapers, and you always put 2 diapers on him at night, and I'd get my fingers in there, and I was so scared of stabbing him with the pins. My fingers would be bleeding, and his legs are like this because those big old diapers are on there. But I think that brought us a lot closer to him, because we spent a lot of time individually with him. She during the day and me at night, and then of course both our grandmas and grandpas were right here in town to help us take care of him. That made it easier for us, but I think we probably spent as much time as we possibly could with him when he was little.
Yeah. Well, other than you kids, that was probably the best time of our life because Kurt was involved. He always coached him, and they'd play out in the yard until supper was cold. And
then we'd come in and eat and go back out
Yeah.
while Grams had to do dishes,
Yeah, but-
play catch and hit the ball and shoot baskets. And I coached him in Little League football, basketball, and baseball. It was the best time of our lives. We followed him from one end of the county to the other,
well, from Little League on to,
right on up through into Pony League.
yeah.
I went to Brigham and coached in Pony League with him.
And it was good because I think that other than their hunting, was the best time of our life. I didn't go hunting with them. I wasn't asked. I didn't want to go because I knew I'd have to cook. So they just went by themselves in Grandpa Mont. Well, I'm most proud of his family, and that he's got Pam, and he's done so well. You know, he's just above what we ever thought. I mean, I knew he'd hit the stars, but not like he has. But you know, just like on our headstone, we've got on the back, if you get it right the first time, one is enough. And that's so true, because I wasn't able to ever get pregnant again, and he's just been our whole life until you guys come along.
And absolutely no trouble. I mean, you know, like other kids, he just, I felt bad for Rusty and for Helen because of my job. And Russ couldn't participate in a lot of things that kids growing up could, like motorbikes and stuff like that, because without a driver's license you can't drive them. And where I was working for the sheriff's department, it was mandatory that he kind of toed the line and couldn't do what a lot of other kids would do. So tried to make up for it as much as we could by staying involved with him, and I used to take him with me out west even at a young age and stay in the cabins out there
With
and
prisoners?
take him fishing, and I'd even take him out there if I had a prisoner with me that was going out to work. I mean, he got along with him just as well. I mean,
Did they send him alone with him fishing?
took him fishing, and
The prisoner and Rusty went fishing.
he participated in some things that some kids probably will never ever get a chance to, but he missed out on a lot of things that most kids were doing at that time, motorbikes and that type of stuff. But I don't think it
Well,
hurt him any.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like Grams. I couldn't imagine him, you know, progressing to where he's at now, and we're so proud of him and the family and the kids and just the overall picture is just, I mean, you couldn't ask for anything any better.
What did I tell him? That he was probably the best thing that ever happened to us. And I just wish him the best, and I know that he'll do great no matter what he does, but he cares about his family. That's the most important thing.
Well, obviously he cares about his family. You know, that's very evident. It's just I want him just to hopefully be with his grandkids the way my dad was with him, because they had a relationship that I was even envious of, being the dad. And Rusty seems to have that with the grandkids.
You know, you have kids yourself, and you love your kids no matter what. I mean, you just can't describe how much you love them. And even, Brookie, when you get grandkids, your mother will say this: there's so much love in your kids and your grandkids that you just can't believe how, you know, I just wish we were closer, and because the relationship, because we all lived in town here, my mother and dad, Kurt's mother and dad, so we were together a lot. And I wish that, you know, I know your lives are a lot busy now, and we live farther away, and that can't happen, but it sure was fun growing up with Rusty with all that going on. But we love Rusty and his family too. I don't like that saying to the moon and back, but, you know, they're very dear to us.
Obviously, Rusty and Grandma's been my life, you know, and I'm so proud of him that words can't express how proud I am. I've told him 100 times, but still, it's just, I'm just amazed at what he does and how how he's progressed in life, and I'm so thankful that he's able to do that, because he's able to step out and take a chance if need be, and I was always one of these to be secure in a position and kind of step back and be, sit there and instead of moving forward. But Russ is words can't express how proud I am of him. It's just, and I watch each day, and he just seems to move a little farther ahead again.
And he never, says, he doesn't brag about what he's accomplished,
that's
and you have to almost drag it out of him.
If you can get it out of him, sometimes it's like I'm digging into your affairs, and he's pretty quiet about what he does, and he's moving forward, and that's fine. I'd rather have him that way than be, saying, look at me, look what I've done.
Well, really, to be truthful with you, I don't think he could be any happier than he is right now. More grandbabies is going to make him more happy, but he's just in a good spot with his life. He's happy, he's content, he's with the woman he loves dearly, and the grandkids, the great-grandkids.
Big Red.
Yeah. Rusty, I need to tell you, oh, what a good son you've been. And I've always been proud of you. And sometimes we get disgusted with each other, and we pass that along. But I do love you, and I wish you the best of luck in anything that you do. But always remember that we're here and we love you.
Russ, you've been our life since we've had you. We'll never have any less love for you. If nothing else, it's more love, because we're so proud of you and your accomplishments and your family and your kids and your grandkids and the things you do and how you go about doing it. It's amazing that Grandma and I was able to produce somebody that's so perfect as far as we're concerned.